We'll discuss about anticholinergic drugs. We already completed cholinomimetics, anticholinesterase drug. Cholinomimetics was agonist on cholinergic receptors, and anticholinesterase drugs, they are enzyme inhibitors. They inhibits acetylcholinesterase and produce cholinomimetic effect indirectly. So they are also known as indirectly acting cholinomimetics. Now we are discussing anticholinergic drugs. These are the drugs which blocks the actions of acetylcholine, but they are also known as anti-muscarinic drugs. Why they are known as anti-muscarinic drugs? Because they blocks only the actions of acetylcholine through the muscarinic receptors. That means they are purely muscarinic receptor antagonist. Understand that anticholinergic drugs, though we are telling anticholinergic drugs, it is supposed to block all the actions of acetylcholine, but it's not so. It is muscarinic receptor antagonist, and it will block only the actions of acetylcholine through the muscarinic receptors by blocking the muscarinic receptors. They are also known as parasympatholytics because it blocks the parasympathetic activity, and atropine-like drugs because atropine was the first drug discovered under this classification. That's why they are also known as atropine-like drugs. So don't get confused like in the figure. All the four names are applicable, but what we have to remember is these all the four names, what all drugs coming under all these four headings, they blocks only the muscarinic actions of acetylcholine. Kindly refer back the chart which you note down in the back side of the notebook. This chart receptors, the actions. So muscarinic receptors are there M1 to M5. So all these actions from M1 to M5 will be blocked. So the actions of acetylcholine through the M1 to M5 receptors will be also blocked. So let us see the classification. Natural anticholinergic drugs, atropine, this is the first drug, hyoscine or scopolamine or hyoscyamine. Three names are applicable, but the most commonly used names are hyoscine or scopolamine. Second classification, semi-synthetic derivatives. Semi-synthetic, so easy to remember if you know atropine, homatropine, atropine methonitrate, you can remember easily. But the most important drug in that class is ipratropium bromide and tiotropium bromide. I given in the bold because they are widely used for bronchial asthma or COPD. So ipratropium bromide and tiotropium bromide are important drug. Along with that, you can remember homatropine or atropine methonitrate or hyoscine butyl bromide. Third classification, synthetic compounds. It's again subclassified as first one, mydriatics. Mydriatics, remember the D in that, that means dilatation of pupil. It increases the pupil size. Cyclopentolate and tropicamide, which are very commonly used for mydriatic purpose. Second is anti-secretory and anti-spasmodic. It's not coming up. Kindly note down anti-secretory and anti-spasmodic, that is clidinium bromide, glycopyrrolate, dicyclamine and pyrazipine. I put some star in that glycopyrrolate, which is commonly used, dicyclamine, very commonly used, like methyl spas. Methyl stands for mefenamic acid, it's a NSAID, and the spas stands for reducing the spasm of the GID, that is dicyclamine, and pyrazipine is again another important drug for pepticles. C, that is, I'm sorry, it's not coming up. It is vesicoselective. You can note down the spelling VASCIO, vesico. Sorry, it's not like that. VASICO, vesicoselective. Vesicoselective means they are very selective for the visceral organs. Example, oxybutynine and flavoxate. And last classification, anti-Parkinson drug, that is benzhexol, procyclidine and piperidine. Benzhexol, procyclidine and piperidine. I repeat, synthetic compounds, mydriatic is there, anti-secretory and anti-spasmodic. Kindly note down that. C, vesicoselective, VASICO, vesico selective, that is selective for the visceral organs, especially urinary system. Mechanism of action of anticholinergic, already mentioned, they are muscarinic antagonist, muscarinic receptor antagonist. So it causes reversible blockade of muscarinic receptors. It's a reversible blockade if the acetylcholine level can be increased, that is by blocking the acetylcholine esterase enzyme. If you can increase the acetylcholine level in the synapse, the blockade can be overcome. Kindly note down that. And it is having affinity for the muscarinic receptors but no intrinsic activity. That means it cannot activate the receptor. It can simply block the receptor and prevent the binding of acetylcholine to the receptors. Pharmacological actions, we are taking atropine as a prototype drug because it blocks all the muscarinic receptors, while the rest of the classification, what all drugs coming other than atropine, they are known as atropine substitutes. Kindly note down, all the drugs which are coming after atropine under the classification of anticholinergic drugs are also known as atropine substitutes. So they will be having some selective effect on various receptors, while atropine will be blocking almost all the muscarinic receptors. That's why we are discussing atropine under the pharmacological action. First, effect on central nervous system. Usually it produces CNS excitement initially, especially of medullary centers like vagal, respiratory and vasomotor centers, but higher doses or continuous use, it will cause CNS depression. And another important action, it blocks the cholinergic overactivity. But the term you can note down there, it blocks the relative cholinergic overactivity. You can see here, block relative cholinergic overactivity in the basal ganglia and suppresses the tremor and rigidity in Parkinson's disease. So you can see here the substantia nigra. It's a part of basal ganglia. From there is a nerve innervation which projects to neostriatum, and it secretes dopamine to neostriatum. So the cell body of this dopaminergic neuron lies in substantia nigra, while it projects and secretes dopamine into the neostriatum. While the dopamine is having an inhibitory effect on neostriatum, while there is another nerve innervation coming to neostriatum from the hypothalamus. It's a cholinergic neuron which secretes acetylcholine into the neostriatum and stimulates neostriatum. So the dopamine is having inhibitory effect on the neostriatum, while acetylcholine is having stimulant effect on neostriatum. So that keeps the regulation, and this regulation is highly important to maintain the gross intentional movements of the body, like handwriting, facial expressions, the style of walking, the gait, or what you call the ability to speech. All these things are controlled by this particular area, and there should be a balance between dopamine and acetylcholine in the neostriatum. So what happens in Parkinson's disorder, the dopaminergic cell bodies which lies in the substantia nigra, you can see the yellow color area, they undergo degeneration, that is destruction of the neurons. That means the dopamine level in the neostriatum comes down, or it gets reduced. As a result, there will be an imbalance. Acetylcholine level will be high in the neostriatum and dopamine level will be less. It's not like acetylcholine is secreted more, but dopamine level is getting reduced because of degeneration of dopaminergic neuron in the substantia nigra. As a result, there is a relative overactivity in relation to dopamine. In relation to the level of dopamine, the acetylcholine level is high in the neostriatum, and that's what results in Parkinson's disease. So, how to control the symptoms like tremor or rigidity associated with Parkinson's disease? One aim, either we can supplement dopamine by using levodopa to increase the dopamine level, or you reduce the acetylcholine activity by giving the drugs which are having central anticholinergic activity and can reduce the acetylcholine level, so that the balance between acetylcholine and dopamine can be maintained. And the motion sickness property. So motion sickness, it is the disturbances or vomiting associated with the motion of the body, like swinging or when you travel in a bus or in a car. So this happens when there's a disturbances in the balance. So the body send impulses to the vomiting center and create some disturbances in our body like vomiting, so that the movements can be prevented and the balance can be regained. So that happens from the inner ear through a cholinergic link pathway. So the cholinergic link pathway is lying in the cerebellum where you are having the M1 receptor. So it's a cholinergic receptor and that send impulses to the vomiting center, resulting in vomiting associated with the and motion sickness. So if the cholinergic link pathway, if you can block this cholinergic link pathway, the impulses will not be reaching the vomiting center and there won't be motion sickness. So that is how the anticholinergic drug will be producing anti-motion sickness property. You can note down this: depresses the vestibular excitation and block the cholinergic link pathway between the inner ear and vomiting center. Coming next, effect on eye. So already seen cholinomimetic, it produces miosis, increase outflow of aqueous humor, spasm of accommodation. So let us see what happens if the receptors are blocked. So initially it produces mydriasis, increase in pupil size. You can see here there is a mydriatic effect, increase in pupil size. The reason is blockade of M3 receptor in the circular muscles of iris. As a result, the sympathetic action on the radial muscles will overweigh, resulting in a passive mydriasis, increase in pupil size. I repeat again, it is due to blockade of M3 receptor in the ciliary muscles. Sorry, in the circular muscles of iris. I repeat, it's a mistake. It's a blockade of M3 receptor in the circular muscles of iris. As a result, the acetylcholine is not able to act on the circular muscles. There is no contraction of circular muscles, while the radial muscles will contract, or the sympathetic activity on radial muscles will overweigh, resulting in a passive mydriasis or increase in pupil size. Second, it causes paralysis of ciliary muscles. Already you have seen the ciliary muscles, how it play an important role in accommodation. So blockade of M3 receptor in the ciliary muscles will completely result in paralysis of ciliary muscles. As a result, the ciliary muscles will relax. There will be increased tension on the suspensory ligaments and the lens will become less convex because of pulling by the suspensory ligaments, and the vision will be focused for the far vision and the near vision will be completely blurred. That means it can result in loss of accommodation. Cholinomimetic, it was spasm of accommodation, but here complete loss of accommodation because the receptors are completely blocked and blurring of near vision, and the condition we call cycloplegia. And fourth one, loss of light reflex. So when the bright light falls on the eye, the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, acetylcholine is secreted, and it is supposed to act on M3 receptor in the circular muscles of iris. But the M3 receptor in the circular muscles of iris, once it is blocked by the anticholinergic drug, acetylcholine is not able to act on the M3 receptor in the circular muscles of iris and not able to produce the contraction of circular muscles of iris and do not produce the light reflex or miosis. And because of loss of light reflex, there will be difficulty for the patient to get into the bright light, resulting in photophobia. And there will be definitely dryness and irritation of eye because of decreased lacrimation. And there is chance of increase in intraocular pressure, but it is observed only in patients with a narrow angle glaucoma. So it is contraindicated in glaucoma because of decreased outflow of aqueous humor from the posterior chamber to the anterior chamber. Effect on heart, very simple. You see acetylcholine, it produces bradycardia, so here we can expect the tachycardia. Blood vessels and BP, there is no effect at all, so no need to mention in the answer paper any effect on blood vessel or BP, because acetylcholine do not play a major role on the blood vessel. It is only an indirect effect, that is through endothelial cells by releasing nitric oxide. So that is not a physiological action of acetylcholine. So blockade of the receptor in the endothelial cells will not produce any effect. So there is no effect on blood vessels or BP. Effect on smooth muscles, you can expect relaxation because acetylcholine produces contraction. So that's a physiological action of acetylcholine. Once it is blocked, the smooth muscles will relax. The important muscles involve GIT. So once the GI smooth muscle relaxes, there will be decrease in tone and peristalsis. So decrease in motility of GIT, that means the movements of the content of GIT is reduced. That means it will lead to constipation. Note down, it is not there in the slide. Bronchial smooth muscles, it will produce bronchodilation. Bronchodilation. Relaxation of bronchial smooth muscles, useful for treating asthma and mainly for COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Urinary system, again the peristalsis, the contraction of the trachea or the urinary bladder will be reduced, it will be relaxed, so definitely it will lead to urinary retention. So GIT, constipation, reason is decreased GI motility. Bronchial smooth muscle, bronchodilation due to relaxation of bronchial smooth muscle, useful in asthma or COPD. Urinary system, decrease peristalsis in the ureter, decrease contraction of the urinary bladder or the trachea, leading to urinary retention. Exocrine glands. Acetylcholine tends to increase all the secretion, so blockade of that leads to decrease in all the exocrine secretion except milk and bile. So there will be dryness of mouth, there will be decreased sweating, there will be decrease in gastric acid secretion, and so on. Effect on body temperature, because once sweating is reduced, definitely the body will increase the temperature. So increase in body temperature we usually call it as atropine fever. The reason is reduced sweating as well as stimulation of the temperature regulating center in the hypothalamus. Coming to kinetics, atropine shows a short half-life, but the effect on eye will prolong to about 72 hours. So atropine is not used for producing mydriasis because we want only a short action for the purpose of ophthalmoscopy or other purposes in the eye. So we use either cyclopentrolite or tropicamide for the purpose. Atropine is never used for the mydriatic purpose because of its long duration of action. Adverse effect, definitely you can from the pharmacological action itself you can write down. We started from the CNS, the excitation, let it be there. Then we come to the cardiovascular system, there's a tachycardia. Then we came to the smooth muscles, constipation, urinary retention. When we come to body temperature, increase in body temperature, dryness of eye, all those things. So it's in the order: dryness of mouth, blurring of vision, important side effects, constipation, urinary retention. There's a four main side effects we always present, followed by photophobia, dryness and irritation in the eye, tachycardia, increase in body temperature, and you can go on noting down the side effects. Indications, important, I am giving the drug and the use of drug. Why it is so? Because atropine can block all the receptors and the uses are limited because of that particular reason. While the atropine substitutes, I repeat the term atropine substitutes, that means all the drugs which are coming other than atropine are known as atropine substitutes, and they will be having selective effect on various receptors and their uses also vary. So it's important, note down atropine or homatropine for sinus bradycardia. Sinus bradycardia is decrease in the heart rate because of decreased impulse generation from the SA node. It may be due to the vagal stimulation. So once M2 receptor is blocked, the heart rate can be improved. Or in mushroom poisoning or organophosphorus poisoning, already mentioned under later classes. Atropine, it can be also used for siluria or hyperhidrosis, increased salivation, especially during oral surgeries or other purposes. Hyperhidrosis, that is increased sweating. So that can be also treated by using atropine. Scopolamine for motion sickness. The reason is already mentioned under CNS. Refer back. It should be mentioned under the use. Ipratropium bromide and thiotropium bromide, they are bronchodilators. They are mainly used as inhalation. You can see that inhaler is there in the figure. You can see Ipravent is ipratropium bromide. They are used for bronchial asthma, but the main use of ipratropium bromide is for COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The reason will be explained under respiratory system, asthmatic bronchitis and status asthmaticus along with the scopolamine. Cyclopentrolate or tropicamide. It's a mydriatic drug, short-acting mydriatic. They are used for ophthalmoscopy, also for keratitis or iritis, and to break adhesion between the lens and the iris. Glycopyrrolate or atropine, they are used for pre-anesthetic medication. These are the medications which are given prior to the anesthesia or before the anesthesia to make the anesthesia more pleasant and safe. So any anesthetic if you take, it do not satisfy all the requirements of a ideal anesthetic. So to cover up that, we give some drugs before the anesthesia so that the needed requirement which cannot be satisfied by the anesthetic can be overcome. So glycopyrrolate, I repeat, glycopyrrolate or atropine, they are mainly used because in order to reduce the tracheobronchial secretion and prevent vagal bradycardia, and also to prevent, it's missing, it's there, kindly note down, to reduce tracheobronchial secretion, to prevent vagal bradycardia, and to prevent laryngospasm, Pyrazine, it is used for duodenal ulcer or stress ulcer, peptic ulcer, mainly two types, gastric as well as duodenal ulcer. Pyrazine is used only for duodenal ulcer. It is contraindicated in gastric ulcer. The reason I am mentioning right now, kindly note down. In case of gastric ulcer, the ulceration is in the stomach. So pyrazine will reduce the GI motility. That means the acid and the spices which are taken along with the food will remain in contact with the ulcer in the stomach for a long period of time because of decrease in GI motility. So that will worsen the gastric ulceration. While in case of duodenal ulcer, the GI motility is reduced. That means the acid will be slowly getting down into the duodenum. So the ulcer is in the duodenum. So the acid will be slowly coming into contact with the ulcer in the duodenum because of decreased GI motility, and as well as the pyrazine can reduce the secretion of gastric acid, especially the cephalic phase of gastric acid secretion, and that's why reason it is also useful for stress ulcer. Remember why it is contraindicated for gastric ulcer, because of decrease in GI motility. So the acid and the food materials remain in contact with the ulcer in the stomach for a longer period of time, which will worsen the condition. Next class is dicyclomine or clidinium bromide. Repeat, antisecretory and antispasmodic. They are useful for mainly for intestinal colic or biliary colic. Dicyclomine, I repeat, meftalspas, very commonly used for used by the female patients for the pain and disturbances or GI spasm associated with the menstruation. Oxybutane and flavoxate, vesicoselective, very selective for the visceral organ, especially the urinary system. So they are mainly used for ureteric colic, nocturnal enuresis, hyperactive urinary bladder, urinary incontinence, and detrusor instability. So all these conditions, you can see the ureteric colic. There's a spasm, so it relaxes the smooth muscles. Nocturnal enuresis, that is urination during the bedwetting, what we call. So decrease urine outflow because of urinary retention is helpful. Hyperactive urinary bladder, that's commonly seen in elderly geriatric patients. So the frequency of urination, especially in the night, will be more. So that can be reduced. Urinary incontinence, you know it. So that frequency of urination can be reduced, and detrusal instability and associated urinary frequency can be also reduced. Benzoxol, procyclidine, and piperidine, they are useful for Parkinson's disease. It's already there in the classification, anti-Parkinson drug. The reason is mentioned in the CNS. Kindly refer back and note down under the use. Acute belladonna poisoning. Because why belladonna? Because it is due to the ingestion of belladonna berries. You can see that it looks somewhat like grapes. So that was very common because atropine is obtained from belladonna, Atropa belladonna. Atropa belladonna is a name. So that's very commonly used, common source for atropine, and it looks like grape. The children may have the tendency to ingest it. That's why it's commonly known as belladonna poisoning, and it's also from the datura seeds. So the symptoms of atropine poisoning or belladonna poisoning will be the same as adverse effects of anticholinergic drug, which we already discussed. So treatment, Note down the treatment for belladonna poisoning or atropine overdosage. General measures: go for a gastric lavage, maintain the circulation, maintain the respiration if required, catheterize the urinary bladder because urinary retention will be there. Symptomatic treatment: we give diazepam to prevent convulsions. We keep the patient in a dark room because the patient will be having mydriasis and loss of accommodation and loss of light reflex, so he will be having severe photophobia. So to avoid the damage to the retina, the patient should be kept in the dark room. And ice bags are used to reduce the body temperature because there is lack of sweating and disturbance in temperature regulating center, so that will increase the body temperature, so that has to be controlled. And the specific management of atropine poisoning, you can go for a universal antidote. More than that, physostigmine is a lipid soluble drug which can have more prominent effect on muscarinic receptors or the areas where muscarinic receptors are present. Refer back anticholinesterase. The difference between physostigmine and neostigmine: physostigmine is lipid soluble and they produce the more prominent effect or more effect on the enzymes which are acetylcholinesterase, which are secreted in the synapse where muscarinic receptors are present. So that will block the muscarinic effects of atropine. Thank you very much.